This meeting is called to order in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Law. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided. This meeting of August 19th, 2024 was published in the Courier News and Star Ledger and placed on the Borough's website. Notice of this meeting was also placed on a bulletin board at Borough Hall. A copy of this notice is available to the public, and a copy of this statement shall be included in the minutes of this meeting. Mayor Brian Gallagher.
Here.
Council members Teresa Bonner.
Here.
Glenn Denis is excused this evening. Tom Mitchell.
Here.
Randy Pitts is excused this evening. Gina Stravic.
Here.
Roger Vroom.
Here. All right, please stand for the salute to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, motion for approval of the minutes of August 5th, 2024.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion, roll call.
Council members Teresa Bonner.
Yes.
Tom Mitchell.
Yes.
Roger Vroom.
Yes.
Gina Stravic.
Yes.
Roger Vroom.
Yes.
All right, departmental reports and notices as listed. Going to depart a little bit. We have a special guest here tonight, somebody new to the borough but not new to the area. After a lengthy search, the Somerville Board of Education has made a selection of a new school superintendent. His name is Gary Labisco, and Gary is here tonight to just make a brief introduction, tell us a little bit about himself, and we can give you a warm welcome. So Gary, if you want to.
First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for the really warm welcome. It was wonderful to come in a little bit early and get introduced to our council and mayor, and I really appreciate that. First of all, I have been in the area, but not in Somerville specifically, so having these type of connections I think are absolutely invaluable. The more that we can work together and have this interaction and positive relationship, the better off our students are going to be. So I really look forward to those types of opportunities, and I really look forward to meeting with you tomorrow, Mayor.
Absolutely.
And thank you, President Broom, for inviting me tonight and having me. And it's a really small world, as we found out, that our educational paths have crossed in many different ways. Just a little bit about myself. I am so excited to get started. It's been 2 very quick weeks on the job so far, since August the 1st in the Somerville School District. Everyone from the students to the staff to the school community have been absolutely warm in their welcome and wonderful, and helping me get acquainted with the school district. And as I said, I am very familiar with it due to my proximity. I live in Bridgewater, spent a majority of my academic and educational career in Denellen, and now I'm right down the road here, excited to lead the school community. So I can tell you, in 2 short weeks, I've been able to find out what I already knew about Somerville, and that's that you have extremely dedicated staff members, you have students and parents who are absolutely in love with the school and will do anything for it, and you have a absolutely wonderful school community that supports everything they do. So I look forward to a wonderful relationship, and if I can ever do anything to help, please don't hesitate to reach out, and thank you for the warm welcome.
Awesome. I look forward to chatting with you tomorrow, and we welcome you to our great town. It's awesome. You'll find it challenging at times, but mostly rewarding. And I look forward to working with you and the entire district and figuring out how we can benefit from each other. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'll see you tomorrow.
Sounds good.
All right, take care. Thank you. You don't have to stay for the rest of the meeting.
Force me to get the ice cream that I promised.
Awesome. That's
I appreciate the warm welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Many more times we'll be able to talk and chat and catch up on Somerville, and I look forward to this relationship.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's go into committee reports. Let's start with Tom.
Okay. New Jersey Transit has announced that their train, my speaker wasn't on. New Jersey Transit announced that their trains and buses will be free for the week leading up to Labor Day. That is August 26th to September 2nd. As a thank you to customers who endured a summer filled with delays and disruptions. Customers who already paid for a monthly pass for August will get a 25% discount on September passes. The Daniel Robert House, which is Borough Hall, will be on display again at the weekend journey through the past. This year, the dates are October 12th and 13th. The Historic Advisory Committee is looking for volunteers to help conduct tours. The Historic Advisory Committee has suggested that the World War II Memorial by the YMCA be represented in the Veterans Memorial Day Parade next year. It was suggested that the Parade Committee redraw the parade route. The oil painting for the 2023 Native American Heritage Day has been completed. Harold Willard will be presenting the portrait to the mayor this November, and he wants it to be posted in a public building. 2 old paintings by Ava Cohen were discovered in the library's New Jersey room. After some research, it was discovered they were painted in the 1870s. It was decided to have them digitally photographed. The Somerset County Food Bank is in dire need of donations. Donations of food to food banks are always slow down during the summer. And finally, I'd just like to say, we learned again, or we're reminded again, that most of our parks are on the floodplain. Keep that in mind when it rains. That's it.
Thank you. Gina?
Good evening, all. I have a report on the Somerville Rescue Squad. The squad had responded to 44 calls in July. That brings a 6-month total up to 753 calls through 6 months. The average response time in Somerville continues to be very low, 4.5 minutes. So I think you're in good hands in that. There are also 14 fire alarms so far that they've responded with, and 369 volunteer hours. Regarding the Board of Health, I did ask Patty Hunt to make a public notice on the vaccination clinic that's been arranged through the county health department. There is free vaccinations, child health vaccinations, that is for tomorrow and Thursday over at the Richard Hall Community Mental Health Center. So there are eligibility requirements for the free ones, but you can find that information on the Borough website. And then lastly, the report for Councilman Denis, who's not here tonight. The Environmental Commission met last week. They are working on the next 5-year plan for the community forestry plan, a state requirement. They are also planning an EV car show for October, a repeat of last year, and which was very successful, by the way. And then also they have written several tree grants to get more trees in town, and most recently collaborated with the DSA on a municipal tree grant for the district, the business district. So cross your fingers.
Okay, thank you. Teresa?
Thank you. The Municipal Alliance and Youth Services Commission did not meet in August. The next meeting will be held virtually on Thursday, September 12th at 7 p.m. and is open to the public. The Somerville Public Library has some great programs for children and teens over the next 2 weeks. Tomorrow, Tuesday, August 20th at 4 p.m., there'll be Crafternoon program for kids and tweens in the children's room. They'll be making crafts with various supplies. Wednesday, August 21st, a preschool story time at 10 a.m. It's an interactive program that fosters literacy skills through books, songs, and activities. On Thursday, August 22nd, the Teen Leadership Committee meets at 6 p.m. Teens can earn community service hours by helping to plan and organize upcoming teen programs. This program meets twice a month. Tuesday, August 27th, Read to a Therapy Dog will be happening at 4:30 p.m. in the Children's Department. Kids can practice their reading skills by reading a story to a certified therapy dog. Registration is required by visiting the Youth Services Desk or calling 908-458-8445. And lastly, Wednesday, August 28th, Adventure Awaits Magic Show. It happens at 3:30 p.m. That is for all ages, tweens, teens, preschool, kids of all ages, where they can explore the world and their imagination as stories come to life with magic and take a thrilling adventure right in the library. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Roger?
From Recreation, just a reminder that the pool is now closed. Spray parks will remain open until mid-September. Registration is also open for our youth soccer clinics. The Turkey Trot registration is available online, as well as adult pickleball and youth tennis. So please check out our website for those lessons and for the various the pickleball lessons and the tennis lessons and the registration for the Turkey Trot, which is a great time. I highly recommend it, even if you go as a spectator. It's an awesome experience. That's it.
All right, thank you. We have one item up for discussion. This is item number 7, which is a request to adopt an ordinance to eliminate 2 on-street parking spaces at 6 West Cliff Street. This is the result of an application that went before the Zoning Board of Adjustment. It's regarding the property on the northwest corner of Cliff and Bridge, West Cliff and North Bridge. I guess as a part of the site plan for the reconfiguration of it, the applicant had provided the ability to move the driveway, which is in very close proximity to the intersection, which is a very busy intersection, and move it westward to the, I'll call it the other side of the structure, to create a more safe ingress and egress to the site. The folks have provided a rendering of photos of what the current site looks like right now, as well as schematics on what the potential site would look like. And prior to bringing this on as an ordinance for introduction, thought we would just have some discussion to see if there's any issues behind this.
I'm not exactly sure what they want to do. So they want to remove parking that any spaces anyone could use to park on the street to use for their new driveway, or what is it that they want to do?
Yeah, if you look westward on the second sheet, you can see there's 2 cars there.
Yes.
Those are the 2 spaces they would look to eliminate, so that they could put in a driveway roughly in that location, to the left side of the building, as opposed to where it is right now on the right side of the building.
So then could we swap the parking spots?
We could. My only concern with that is that it's so close to the intersection, it becomes, you might be able to get 1, but having 2 there, I think that would have to be kind of like a field decision. I think it does make for a safer ingress and egress to the site. I think we might be able to squeeze 1 parking space.
I mean, what is the ramifications? I mean, what precedent are we setting? Is this a normal procedure?
It is a normal procedure. You know, it's a holdover. I mean, the access driveway is a holdover. I mean, the building's, 120 years old? Actually, the attorney for the applicant is here if you want to maybe provide a little bit of additional background. You may want to, is that on? Yeah, that's, it may not, yeah, that's, yep.
So, good evening, council members. My name is Michael Silbert. I'm an attorney from DeFrancesco Bateman, and I'm here on behalf of 6 West Cliff Street, LLC. So we went before the zoning board back in February and received preliminary and final site plan approval and variance relief, and the topic of this driveway came up during the course of the application process and at the hearing. The existing driveway doesn't comply with the borough's ordinance. It's located way too close to the intersection. It is also 10 feet wide, and the applicant or the client, my client, has to currently enter on Cliff Street, go across his property, go over to his neighbor's property, and then exit on Bridge Street. So when the board reviewed the application and the board's professionals, they suggested, as a matter of practicality, as well as safety at the intersection, that the driveway be relocated closer to the neighbor's property. Driveway is also a shared driveway, so it is now going to be located in closer proximity to the other neighbor's home that it's sharing. And you can see that on the second picture, how far away the current driveway is from the next door neighbor to 6 West Cliff Street. So those were the two main reasons why the board suggested, or aside from the fact that it doesn't comply with the ordinance, that the driveway be relocated down Cliff Street. So those are the main reasons. So safety and practicality. Our engineer did on the horizontal control plan, it's possible to locate an additional parking space. So while the request is that the ordinance eliminate 2 parking spaces, the net would be a loss of 1 space, because technically there could be an additional space put in, but as Mayor Gallagher mentioned, it was our opinion, and I believe it was the board engineers and planners' opinion, that having 2 spaces put so close to the intersection would create the very type of safety problem we're trying to alleviate by relocating the driveway.
And where is the shared driveway at?
The shared driveway is located at the intersection of Cliff Street and Bridge Street, and it's been there, to my knowledge, it's more commonly known as Hangman's Hill. That driveway and the home that you see there has been there since, I believe, the 1860s. This is just an opportunity to create a better situation for local traffic flow, and also it's the neighbor that wasn't part of the application, as well as my client, is receiving a benefit because the new driveway will be 20 feet wide. So my client will no longer have to traverse through their neighbor's property and go through a winding loop. If you look on page 3 of the aerial, you'll see what my client has to do if they want to exit the property. The property at 6 West Cliff Street is also undergoing a change of use. So no improvements to change the beautiful structure you see there, but it's going to be operating slightly different than the way it was originally. It's now going to be for multifamily. It's going to have 3 apartment units, and the board and the board's professionals felt that it was appropriate to undertake that they saw this application as a way to improve the intersection. So I think that's why you had in Mr. Cole's report, for an example, a note to consider relocating the driveway and complying with the borough's ordinance.
How wide is the frontage on Cliff Street?
I'd have to take a look at the plans. Give me one moment. So I know that the current driveway is 10 feet wide. Give me 1 second.
I'm sure it's on here, but this is such a small copy, I can't really read it.
Give me one moment. Let me see if it's in his report here. So it's 120 feet on West High Street.
Okay, so a 20-foot wide driveway is within the zoning requirements.
Right, because it's no longer a single-family structure, so the board and the borough requires that it be able to provide egress and ingress.
So the testimony that was presented at the zoning board was that this creates an improved circulation flow, improved safety.
Correct.
And an overall benefit to the community as opposed to a detriment.
It was one of those nice situations where the board and the board's professionals thought that this was a safe improvement to existing conditions, and the applicant was gracious with that suggestion, because we would much rather have our driveway further away from the intersection, provide egress and ingress, and our neighbor was equally happy because now they have a driveway that fits more within the line of the character of the neighborhood, where the driveway the neighbor will be using is more in closer proximity to the front of their house.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Now, the pavement of the existing driveway will be removed?
Yes.
The porte cochere on the house?
We're getting into areas that,
Right.
hey, Tom, we're getting into areas that really the zoning board dealt with. The question before us are parking spaces. So that's kind of what we have to stick with.
Okay.
I just wanted everyone to know that there are absolutely no changes except for repainting to the exterior of the structure. The portico you were mentioning is going to remain. It's going to become a porch. So that was very important to the zoning board that we preserve the existing aesthetic character of the dwelling, and that was very important to my client. So all the improvements that the board reviewed were really internal and had to do with the parking lot configuration and driveway.
So the question before this governing body is, are we amenable to introducing an ordinance at our next meeting which allows the applicant to fulfill the zoning board requirements to enable them to move the driveway to create a safer condition?
I think
That's
it makes
correct.
sense. I think it's, as has been said, it's safety, as well as it's amenable to both property owners on either side of where the driveway will be. It's safer to be closer or farther away, rather, to the intersection. And again, I trust our zoning board has made the best decision possible for this situation, and I think it makes a lot of sense for us to approve it.
Agreed.
I think it's a beneficial project, I agree.
Okay,
Agreed.
thank you.
Thank you
for your
very much
time.
for your time.
Kevin, if you would draft that up and have that ready for our next meeting for introduction.
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, at this point, I'll ask for a motion to open the meeting to the public.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Council members Teresa Bonner,
Yes.
Tom Mitchell,
Yes.
Gina Stravic,
Yes.
Roger Vroom.
Yes.
All right, please state your name and address for the record, and please address your comments to me. Public portion is now open. If that's on. There you go.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm in a band, so I know how this works.
Oh, boy.
Good. Hi, Jeff Kaiser, 23 Vanderveer Avenue, Somerville. So I'm here to talk about last night. So last night, obviously, we had a rain event, had a flood event that happened last night. Like we all might have looked online on Facebook or taken some photos ourselves, I found some photos online of the flood. And I did I was interested in it, so I did some digging. And I took some of those photos and I tried to find locations in Somerville on the actual flood zoning map from FEMA. And I've got some photos and some information I'd like to provide you if you guys are interested in looking at it. For instance, this particular photo is the new chairs on Cliff and High. If you look at the flood zoning map for FEMA, that is directly inside the 100-year flood zone. If you look at the basketball court, normally the regular floodplain, which is, we have a floodplain, right, that actually allows the Petersbrook to overflow, and then we have a 100-year flood zone and a 500-year flood zone. And if you're not familiar with those, it's a 1% chance of a flood happening or water being in that area in a year. And so normally the basketball court is about 75%. That's where the floodplain region is. But you can tell that it's 100% covered. And I've just marked it here as well. That's in the 100-year flood zone. So that was last night. So last night we had a 100-year flood. And if you look back to December, I remember a flood that occurred. Actually, I came to a council meeting then. And the same situation happened. So, well, I've got it here somewhere. Anyway, I've also located some locations from that flood as well. So we're basically having two 100-year floods within a year, well within a year, and we know they're happening more and more. The situation in December 18th was that Veterans Memorial Drive was closed because of that flood. And so we're having 100-year floods every. It's not a 1% chance. It's like a 100% chance we're going to have this, and I'm concerned about the projection of the negotiations and discussions that are happening in the planning board, as well as the resolution that was passed in this body to decide to negotiate with a developer to build a 250 number of apartments in an area that's in that 100-year flood zone. And so I just want to bring everyone's attention to the fact that we're having 100-year floods already, and that if we are going to conform, well, here's the thing. The DEP has issued a new regulation that stipulates that the 100-year flood region and the 500-year flood region are actually going to be within a section that no development, no building, no reconstruction should occur. The redeveloper put his application in quickly to get...
Jeff, we have to kind of bring this,
My point is, we are looking to develop in an area that new regulations are stipulating we shouldn't. I respect and I actually appreciate the comments that have been made on this issue, and I just want to bring everyone's attention to the fact that we already are in that current situation. We already are experiencing 100-year floods. So, thank you.
thank you. And I'll make comment once everybody's done. You can give those.
Would you like these?
Yeah, give those to Mr. Sluka. Thank you. Any other public comment? Yes.
James Meister, 102 Bermuda Drive, Branchburg, New Jersey. Thank you for having me here. One second, let me adjust this. Okay, so I would like to address the tree ordinance for some context for the audience that is unaware. I'm a rising senior at Somerville High School. I'm in charge of the Youth and Government Club at the high school, and I'm a volunteer with the Environmental Commission. I would like to address the tree ordinance that was curated in our Environmental Commission the last couple of months. This tree ordinance would allow that if a street tree is taken down, it must be replaced, is a short title for that ordinance. And this ordinance was actually put together by pure volunteerism, by the ideals of the Environmental Commission, that of grassroots, literal grassroots, because trees and people coming together to work and put this into legislation. So I was a little disappointed to not see this on the agenda for today's meeting, because I believe this ordinance has come to a full close in terms of the ideas needed to address it, as well as the fact that it should be heard on a public stage and it should be frankly voted on. This ordinance has been again culminated in the past couple of months, and frankly, it seems like it not reaching the agenda is a huge disappointment to people that I believe the community would be in a huge support of a pro-environmental strategy. So this is what's best for the community in my eyes, and what the Environmental Commission's eyes, at least from what I've understood. But in the future, I believe that if we want to hear ordinances more often that is promoted by volunteerism, for example, it being rejected to be on the agenda, I think the mic just went out, so I guess I'll switch to over here. It's working.
Just push the button.
Okay, cool. So let me collect myself. Okay, so the ordinance not being on the agenda is a sign of I feel like it's a tad of neglect, because this ordinance was, again, a long-term idea. And if we want to promote volunteerism and working together to put together ideas onto policy in the future, how are we going to enfranchise future, communities to put together ideas onto an ordinance, onto legislation? I want to also address what Jeff Kaiser brought up, which was the apartment complex that was proposed to be developed over by, I believe it was Somerville Ice Cream. It is on a floodplain zone, and the fact is that during Hurricane Ida, it was completely flooded, and that is a bad thing for developers. And over the weekend, I had drafted an ordinance for if you are going to build on a 90% floodplain, that you are not allowed to do that, because that would cause greater flooding in the area. If I bring that ordinance to the council, will it be rejected from the agenda again? Should I expect to not hear it onto the agenda? So I'm uncertain on where I should go from there. And one more thing I want to discuss is the Downtown Somerville Alliance and their plan that was proposed a year ago to completely revitalize Main Street into a more urban, more mobile, and more greater green spaces in the area. I was wondering when the council plans to take action on that and what the next steps would be for this large, long-term project that would have great long-term benefits for the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
All right. Hi, Mayor, Council. Peter Babinski, resident at 56 Sternadori Road, kind of right down the way. Longtime area resident and had the opportunity to move into Somerville last summer. Loving it so far, but one of the pressing issues that our community faces, at least on this side of the tracks, has been parking. And I know through our HOA board and communications with the council that it is my understanding that Borough, assuming ownership of the main roads, Robeson, Station, Sternadori, whatever, the main ones, not the alleys, would occur upon the completion of development at the site. There is still one parcel to be developed. I understand that potential proposals and plans have a right to be confidential at this point, but I think a lot of residents would like to understand timelines for the assumption of ownership by the borough, such that the problematic parking situation and potentially other things like understanding snow removal and other common services provided by the borough would be established. And, you know, we're looking for any type of guidance from the council on that one. You know, if I'm familiar with government organizations and plans. I was part of a fire district back in East Stanwell. These things can take 4, 5, 6 years. So we're just wondering when we can expect this to be addressed.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment?
The lights on? Yeah. Celine Greaves, 97 East Spring Street. And I had a comment and a question about 2 upcoming things in the agenda. I wanted to point out that in the upcoming ordinance for hearing and adoption today, under Section 9, to address insurance issues, I wanted to highlight to
That one's for introduction.
the introduction. Oh, I'm sorry, yes. Yes, you're right, okay, for introduction, yeah, perfect. I wanted to highlight that there is at least one discrepancy between the town language and what the state has put forth, and it is found in Section 1 of Article 2, where it says that business insurance registration required, it is unlawful for any owner of a business, and then it continues. So just in that area alone, it is introducing a notion of lawfulness, which is not found in the state language, which is therefore introducing criminality in not complying with the town ordinance. And that is not something that's put forth in the state language. And I think that because of that alone, I have an objection, and I'd like everyone to notice that. And I wasn't sure if I would have a chance to bring that up later, so I wanted to highlight that here. I wanted to also highlight concerns that many people who are not able to make it here today, but thank you for the people who have, about the connection of the flooding and the development and the continued proposals for development. Thank you, Mr. Mitchell, for bringing up the flooding when it came to the parks. It's not limited to the parks. I think a lot of us are very concerned with our homes and what all of this is doing. And then I had a question about the ordinance of salary ranges. I'm sorry, yeah. And will I be able to ask a question at that time, or should I do that here?
Right now.
Perfect. I was looking for the listing for a person who is the,
Yeah, if you use titles only, please.
yes, parking, utility, and special projects person, and I did not see that as a job listing, but have interacted with someone under that title.
Okay.
So if that could be provided to, if I have missed that in this listing, I apologize. And thank you, I think. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to close the public session.
So moved?
Discussion? Roll call.
Council members Teresa Bonner,
Yes.
Tom Mitchell,
Yes.
Gina Stravic,
Yes.
Roger Vroom.
Yes.
All right. Public comment is now closed. So that's a lot. I got a lot. I'm going to try to tackle each one. So Jeff, in regards to the flooding, I don't think anybody disagrees with you. It's a problem. It's been a problem for a long time. 100 some odd years ago, Rich, you might have been around at that time. Yeah. Some very smart people actually created our parklands. Our parklands are designed to flood. That's part of why they're there. The volume of water that we had last night was voluminous. It was, I don't know how many inches we had, but it was a lot, and probably within about an hour's time. I was out at 9:30 last night looking at the water as well, for a whole lot of reasons. And what I can tell you is the Brooks handled it. They did. They backed up. They backed up at the bridge points. Where the bridges were, that's where everything begins to back up. But the water was moving extremely quickly, which means the river was down. So our Brooks handled it. Typically, our Brooks can handle almost any storm we have. The problem we have is the Raritan River. Once the Raritan River hits capacity and starts to back up, our Brooks just begin to immediately back up. That's what causes most of our flooding. Not all of it, but most of it. It's a challenge. Is it exacerbated upstream? Absolutely. Is it exacerbated downstream by the flood control projects that have been put in? Absolutely. We're caught in that creamy middle that is a problem. It's us, it's Manville, and you're punching a pillow. Every time you punch the pillow in one area, it pushes out in another. In regards to development, what I will tell you is at the planning board, if folks watched it, there was a common theme that came out of and this was a conceptual review. And a conceptual review is not to give a yay or a nay, it's to point out positives and negatives. You can't give a yay or a nay because you don't have testimony in which to give a yay or a nay. So there were three things that came out of that meeting. And if you watch it and you listen, rather than read sound, not you, but folks in general, read sound bites or look at social media, I think the board shared three concerns: size, location, and safety. And what I can tell you from my perspective, because my responsibility, along with the council, but it falls on my shoulders, is I have to ensure people are safe. That's a very weighty responsibility that I have. And I don't take that lightly. I've gone through Sandy, I've gone through Irene, I've gone through other floods. I can tell you in the last 6 months, I've had to move equipment out of DPW more times than I did in my first 15 years as mayor. It's a problem. It's not just our problem. It's a regional problem. And there is no magic wand that's going to solve this problem. We can make decisions that help mitigate some of the safety concerns behind that. And I have no doubt that this council and the planning board and the zoning board will make those good decisions in the best interest of our community. I hope that addresses some of what your concerns are. We share those concerns as well. The tree ordinance. I don't like the term neglect that you use because it's not neglect. It's called conversation. And that's something that I think is missing a lot of times. So the draft ordinance, which is just that, it was a draft model ordinance, was sent over. And what I can tell you is I did have conversations. I had conversations with the chairman of the Environmental Commission and with the council representative, Councilman Denis. One of the concerns that all of us has is you say street trees. It's not just street trees. That model ordinance, what that says is if you take a tree down on your own personal property, you shall replace it. Government does not belong in anybody's backyard in Somerville, and I won't allow it. So what we did have was a conversation, and our conversation is how do we model something that achieves trees globally in all of Somerville, but it takes that government factor out of my backyard. There is no space for the government in my house, in my bedroom, or in my backyard. And that's not going to happen. Under my watch, I'm not going to let it happen. So you say neglect, I say it's conversation. So I think we all need to take a step back and understand the way government works in Somerville, the way it's worked for decades, 1909, is we get together and we figure it out. We talk about it. We don't come and we don't start casting stones. We don't come and say, you're wrong, I'm right. We come together and we try to figure it out. You look at the folks at this table. We don't always agree, right, Gina? But you know what? We figure it out. So I think everybody needs to dial back on their personal issues, because putting people at odds with each other is not the way to go about things. Sitting down and having a conversation is the way to go about it. And let's figure out how to do it right.
Well, I think we welcome that conversation, Mayor.
So-
And I think if we want to mitigate flooding, we need to
Well,
think
let's-
about trees.
So let me continue to address the folks here. And I agree with you. And I've said to Jeff, and I said to Glenn, you guys want more trees coming out of the planning board? You got it. All you have to do is ask. But you're not going to mandate it to every homeowner when they cut one of their shrubs down. It's not going to happen. So let's see what else we got. Parking. Young man. We've had a number of folks here, and actually this conversation started before I resumed the seat again. The borough doesn't have the ability, and I'm sure you're aware of this, we don't have the ability right now. So what you're looking for is a timeline, and I get that. I don't have a timeline for you, but what I can tell you is we have begun discussions with the developer on the last phase. Is it fair to say, Colin, that it's in the works?
It's in the works.
Yeah. Because I don't have a timeline. I don't think they have a timeline yet, but I can tell you that they're ready. All right? I can also tell you that permit parking is not a stranger to me. I've supported it. I'm okay with it. And I've said to a number of residents who've come here before, once we have control, we'll figure out how best to regulate parking in this area, because it's a problem. You know, it's people jumping on the train, they're using your parking spaces, they're, you know, it's the Wild West in terms of parking. So we'll figure that out. But I'm okay with permit parking, but I can't put permit parking on streets I don't control. And I'm not ready to bring on, nor is the council ready to bring on that control until the project is substantially complete. And the reason behind that is, as they bring in equipment, as they bring in heavy equipment, they can damage the roads. The last thing we want to have to do, once we own it, it's ours. And when we take control of it, I want to make sure that those roads are top-notch. So I know that doesn't help you in the short term, but in the longer term, there is a solution. So thank you. Thanks for your patience. Unlawful, the term unlawful. Jeremy, is there a delineation between the term unlawful versus, I don't know what the other term would be in that scenario? Illegal? Prohibited? Or does it matter?
I don't know that it matters. I'm looking at the ordinance, I'm reading the section right.
Jeremy, your microphone?
I'm not sure that it matters. I'm looking at the ordinance, I was looking at it while you were talking, and it specifies a fine range for the violation, so that means it's unlawful.
It is unlawful, yeah. Yeah, so this is a conversation now that we have to try to gauge based upon your comment.
I mean, it seems to me that if we're going to require an action on the part of the people that this ordinance is targeted to, there has to be an enforcement mechanism. This is the enforcement mechanism.
So if we have a law on the books and you break it, it's unlawful to break it.
Broadest sense, yes.
Yes. Does anybody have an issue with the word unlawful? It's either legal or it's illegal. I don't know that there's a difference in the terminology.
Is this our language or is this the state language?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's consistent with a lot of the municipalities are struggling with this now. It's, they're just starting these ordinances, but it's extremely consistent with, and I couldn't tell you that word or not word, but it probably mirrors most of the ordinances, word by word, to the ones that with the groups we're working with.
Well, did we massage it at all, or is it as presented
You know,
from the state?
The only thing that would be different is the preamble of the ordinance, which does not appear in the code book. That's usually, the preamble is usually written in the beginning to kind of explain what we're doing.
Right.
But the ordinance itself would normally start where the ordinance starts, like, several paragraphs down.
Well, here's what we can do. We'll take a look at the draft ordinance that was brought or sent through the state. And if it's got a different language rather than unlawful, we'll change it to whatever the state's guideline is. And it's a de minimis change. It's on introduction, so we're okay. So we'll just we'll do a comparison review, and whatever the state's recommendation was, we will comply with. Work for everybody?
Well, we don't have a choice with the state.
Right. Whatever the state says
Yeah.
works.
Okay. All right, good.
Yeah.
And then salary range. I didn't go through. Did you get a chance to see if the salary range, if the parking utility and special projects job?
So what happens with titles, sometimes we may call someone by a particular title, but that may not be their official title.
Right.
In this particular ordinances, there were very few titles actually adjusted. That was not one of them, so either that never existed in this ordinance, or the individual that may be using that title, it's not its official title. I
Do we
believe
know
that
what-
official title is project manager. I
Project
believe.
manager?
Yeah.
And is that in here?
That
Without
is.
me having going through this?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you. All right, we have next up ordinance number 2739, ordinance for introduction, which is amending chapter 97 entitled Insurance, creating Article 2 to be titled Business Insurance Registration. Do we have a motion for introduction?
So moved.
Second?
Okay, discussion. So,
Yes,
well, let's give an overview of what this is first. This ordinance is a result of a member of the public coming before us and detailing a state law that was passed a couple of years ago that we had not enacted yet. So this is the result of that. And so a draft ordinance was created, of which you see here. And rather than kind of wing it, I'm going to read to you two sections from this, which kind of condenses what this says. So, The following entities are required to register their certificate of insurance under this chapter. A, businesses, which shall mean any person intending to sell or dispose of, or to offer to sell or dispose of any goods, wares, merchandise, or render any services for fees within the borough. This shall include businesses operating on a temporary basis within the borough, such as peddlers, solicitors, and transient vendors, licensed pursuant to the Borough Code, Chapter 4, and temporary retail food establishments and mobile food units, licensed pursuant to Borough Code, Chapter so-and-so. Owners of single rental dwelling units, owners of multiple dwelling rental units, owners of multifamily homes that include rental units even when one unit is owner occupied. The owner of the business or the owner of a rental unit or units shall maintain liability insurance for negligent acts and omissions in an amount of no less than $500,000 for combined property damage and bodily injury to or death of one or more persons in any one accident occurrence. And B, the owner of a multifamily home, which is 4 or fewer units, one of which is owner occupied, shall maintain liability insurance for negligent acts and omissions in an amount of no less than $300,000. And so on. So essentially, the state is mandating that, that businesses and rental units maintain a minimum level of insurance. That's it. And this isn't really anything that we have control over. The state has mandated this as state law. So we are looking to enact this, to put this on the books. I did have a couple of clarifications, which I think we need to make sure that people understand. It also says businesses operating on a temporary basis within the borough, such as peddlers, solicitors, and transient vendors, licensed pursuant to Borough Code Chapter 4, and temporary retail food establishments and mobile food units. So I think we need a little bit of clarification on that, because I understand our initial conversations were that it's more brick and mortar businesses, temporary businesses in brick and mortar locations, as opposed to, let's say, a street fair or the farmer's market that we have. But it does also say mobile food units. So I think we have to do a little bit more review on that, Kevin, if we can. And maybe find out either from DCA, Department of Community Affairs out of the state, or from other communities on how they handled that, just to make sure that we're not creating something onerous. I think, once again, intent is good for protecting people. There may be some residential units that face a rent increase because of this state mandate. That's part of, it's part of the law. So, I doubt very highly that the landlords will absorb that themselves. They will pass those increases along. So those units that are over 4 units are not controlled by the borough. They're not inspected by the borough. That's handled at the state level. So we don't have, that's why they're not included in this.
I think if we're looking at this, again, Brian, that we should also look at the Airbnb. I think I brought that up at the last meeting, you weren't here, but there are Airbnbs in town, and I think out of public safety, that they should have insurance, and also we probably need to look at it in terms of fire safety as well.
Gina, I agree. And I just said to Kevin yesterday, I had gotten because Airbnb is facing this all over the country. So they actually sent a toolkit, a legislative toolkit, which we can look at as kind of a base model, and then, again, approach other. But I agree. I think we should look at it from, not only from that side of it, but we've had some incidents of Airbnbs being rented for party purposes. So we need to make sure that doesn't happen.
Whether that's considered a residence, if it's for a party or if it's for a vacation.
Yeah.
Also, the question I had earlier was whether or not this applies to state licensed rooming houses.
Yeah, I think initially I advised you, I thought it would. It does not.
It does not apply to state.
No.
But we could add it in our own ordinance if we wanted to, right?
Well, it's like every ordinance is, the governing body could do as it feels necessary with any ordinance. It's just, this is to satisfy the state requirement. There are things that we do on our own ordinances and again, this is strictly a ordinance to allow Zeno in my office to collect their certificate. That's
Yeah.
what it does. There's no anything else that goes along with it. But if that was something that you wanted to amend to include other locations, that would be, I think we need to comply with the state ordinance, and then we could amend it as
Yeah, we
we
can,
see
yeah,
fit.
and maybe as we begin the housing plan and we can, yeah, but I think that's good comments.
Yeah, I think we should avoid bringing in any restrictions.
Tom, can you lean forward a little bit for your microphone?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, I think we should avoid imposing any restrictions on the businesses in Somerville that are not already being enforced by the state. The state regulations are, I think, adequately onerous.
Very well put, Tom.
You'll excuse
Very
me,
well
yeah,
put. Yeah.
my language.
I mean, and we could review that. We could see what the state does on, or instead of duplicating, I do understand you, Councilman, saying if they're already giving it to the state,
Yeah.
why would we become the depository of those certificates?
Correct. And I think rooming houses are governed by DCA, correct? Yeah. Okay. All right, further discussion. All right, I will open up for public comment on ordinance 2739. Oh, did you have one?
I was just going to mention that we discussed, I believe in the last meeting, that this state law also dictates that the municipalities can charge the businesses a fee to file their insurance, proof of insurance with the municipality. And we, as a council, have decided that that is not what we would want to do. I think our local businesses already accrue enough, financial burden that we don't need to add to that. So that was it.
Yes, good comment, thank you. Public comment on 2739.
So moved.
No, I don't need a motion.
Oh, you don't need a motion.
No, it's just comment. Yes.
Very quick. Again, Celine Greaves, 9070 Spring Street, and I just wanted to highlight that my concern was not limited to the use of the legality language being added to. It was just, to me, an indication that more analysis and double-checking with what the state was saying should occur. And I just want to point out that the verbiage around illegality adds a criminality to noncompliance, and I do think that there's a bit of a distinction between something being worthy of a fine and something being made criminal. And so I just really think that the language needs to be adjusted and analyzed there. My other concern was with the language around transient or limited businesses, around food and things like that.
Yeah, the transient vendors.
Correct.
Yeah.
And the language is so vague and gives no, because it says even for a short time, it gives no minimum. And so I think being concerned about what that means for farmers market vendors, street vendors, it could arguably be, that language could apply to kids having a lemonade stand. And so I would just ask that some additional effort, which it sounds like the council is planning to do, initial effort be put into making sure that the language being put forward is specific, and I just wanted to
Thank you.
thank you so much.
Any other public comment? Hearing none, close public comment, and
I
roll.
do believe the definitions are part of this. It just doesn't appear as part of this code.
Okay.
So I think in our code book, don't ask me what it is, but I believe there's actually definition for mobile food vendors, peddlers, itinerant, like that.
We'll flush that
transit,
out, yeah. Okay, thank you. Roll call.
Council members, Teresa Bonner,
Yes.
Tom Mitchell, Gina Stravic,
Yes.
Roger Vroom.
Yes.
All right, ordinances for public hearing and adoption. Ordinance number 2737 is amending Chapter 102, Section 118, entitled Off-Street Parking and Loading Requirements, subsection F, entitled Driveways, Item 4. Do we have a motion for adoption?
Yeah, I believe we have to open that.
I'm gonna open it up for the public hearing once we,
Okay, I would move for adoption, but I have a comment on it.
Second?
okay. Roll call.
Could I-
You have to have the public hearing on this first.
Yes, we have.
Oh, yeah.
And,
No, all right.
You can treat his motion as a motion to open to the public
Yeah,
on the adoption issue,
okay,
yeah,
seconded by Councilman Crowe.
okay.
I just wanted to advise that basically what this is doing, the existing law, ordinance, the existing code limits this width of a driveway to 1/5 the frontage of the property. But in case the property is less than 50 feet wide, this ordinance allows the driveway to be 10 feet wide. And I think that's a very reasonable figure.
Yeah, this is cleaning up an issue that was faced probably about 10 years ago on, not on Schoolhouse Lane, on, over in the Schoolhouse neighborhood. Fieldstone, thank you. There's a number of double width driveways, and with a single curb cut opening. Gentleman came to Borough Hall requesting the proper permit to put in the double lane driveway with the single width opening, and was denied. So we went back and looked, and literally every other person on the block had this. So what we tried to do was to bring it in conformance with the existing condition. And apparently, in housekeeping, it was never fully adopted. There was a line left off. So this is really a housekeeping issue to bring things in compliance from 10, 12 years ago. That make sense? Okay. Public hearing? Did I?
Yeah, so just to get us right back on
Yeah.
page here. So we have a motion and a second that we're gonna treat as the motion and the second for the public hearing.
Correct.
So this will be the roll call to open it up for the public.
Correct.
Council members, Teresa Bonner,
Yes.
Tom Mitchell.
Yes.
Gina Stravic.
Yes.
Roger Vroom.
Yes.
Okay, public hearing is now open. Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. Now we'll go for a motion for adoption.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion. Roll call.
Council members, Teresa Bonner,
Yes.
Tom Mitchell.
Yes.
Gina Stravic.
Yes.
Roger Vroom.
Yes.
Okay, ordinance number 2738 is amending ordinance number 2735-240506, establishing a salary range for employee titles to be paid to certain officers and employees of the Borough of Somerville. Motion for public hearing.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion. Roll call.
Council members, Teresa Bonner,
Yes.
Tom Mitchell.
Yes.
Gina Stravic.
Yes.
Roger Vroom.
Yes.
All right, public hearing on 2738 is now open. Hearing none, we'll close. I'll ask for a motion to close.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion. Roll call.
Council members, Teresa Bonner,
Yes.
Tom Mitchell.
Yes.
Gina Stravic.
Yes.
Roger Vroom.
Yes.
All right, public hearing is closed. Motion for adoption, please.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion. Roll call.
Council members, Teresa Bonner,
Yes.
Tom Mitchell.
Yes.
Gina Stravic.
Yes.
Roger Vroom.
Yes.
Okay, resolutions 238 through 249. I will pull 249. Is there any others that would like to be pulled?
240, please.
240, okay. Any others? All right, can we have a motion on 238, 239, 241 through 248?
So moved?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Council members, Teresa Bonner,
Yes.
Tom Mitchell.
Yes.
Gina Stravic.
Yes.
Roger Vroom.
Yes.
All right, 240 is rejecting all bids for the Somerville Borough Hall entry portico and exterior restoration project on the second occasion and authorizing negotiation of a contract. Do we have a motion?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second.
Okay, discussion.
Yeah, well, the borough received state approval of grants to restore the portico and repair the external facade of the Daniel Robert House, otherwise known as Borough Hall. We received the bids, but the lowest bid was over budget. It was excessive, and we could not afford it with the grants that we had been approved for. So the Historic Advisory Committee is looking to adjust the scope of the project to something that we can fit within the realm of the grants.
Okay. Thank you. Any further comment? Roll call.
Council members: Teresa Bonner,
Yes.
Tom Mitchell,
Yes.
Gina Stravic,
Yes.
Roger Vroom.
Yes.
All right, 249 is memorializing accepting the resignation of Deirdre Rosinski from the Somerville Planning Board effective August 3, 2024. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, just a couple of words. Deirdre has been a very long time, solid, stalwart, intelligent, committed person on our planning board. She's an architect by trade, and she has helped guide our borough for many, many years. She had a gap, and then I brought her back probably about 10, 11 years ago. And she has done wonderful things at the planning board. She brought a different eye in reviewing all of our applications. And she is moving on. She's leaving town to be with family, and we wish her all the best, and we congratulate her and thank her on her many years of dedicated service to our borough. So,
Well said, Brian.
thank you. Roll call.
Council members: Teresa Bonner,
Yes.
Tom Mitchell,
Yes.
Gina Stravic,
Yes.
Roger Vroom.
Yes.
All right, bills and vouchers.
We got a whopper this month. Whew. I make a motion to pay bills and vouchers in the minuscule amount of $9,806,125.24.
And I will second that with just a notation that about 8.3 million of that is going to the school board and to the county. So the bulk of that is not coming from this table.
As a reminder, the borough collects the taxes and then pays out that money throughout the year, quarterly, obviously. So as the councilman said, it is for state, county, and school taxes. And it is $8,337,469.69. That goes towards those entities.
Okay, great, thank you. Roll call.
Council members: Teresa Bonner,
Yes.
Tom Mitchell,
Yes.
Gina Stravic,
Yes.
Roger Vroom.
Yes.
Tom, I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?